Never in my life did I have the first thought of the day is, how's my breathing going to be today? And that's my first thought every day these days.
I have to fix the car or buy food, I fix the car. Or pay my medication rather than eat, I go with my medication.
I'm old enough to not need to go through all these problems to try to get a little bit of help.
It's like people are down on their luck, and instead of giving them a hand up, you know, you're making it as more difficult, as hard as you possibly can for them.
2 years ago, I was diagnosed with COPD. I have emphysema. I have 4-millimeter nodules on my lungs. My ability to do what I used to do isn't there anymore. So I haven't worked in 2 years. I've always had an apartment, rented, paid, my utility bills. And I worked construction most of my life. I roofed for years and years. If something's broke, I could fix it, or if you wanted it built, I could build it. And now, I can't do a lot of those things because of breathing. So the first time I got covered in sawdust, I hated it. And then I said, wow, this is really cool. I mean, I don't know if that's crazy or not, but if I'm not covered in sawdust or sheetrock dust or something, I'm not working, I'm not achieving and earning money. I can do what I like and make money. That was a win-win situation. But the atmosphere, it pushed it right along. We filed a disability claim, which is pending, and that's going on and on and on. And it's a lot of hoops to jump through.
So in February of this year, I was injured outside of work by helping my mother load a snowblower into the back of a truck. And it messed up my lumbar. And I didn't have any insurance at the time. I could not afford the insurance through work, so I had to actually cancel it. With prices going through the roof, you just simply needed to move money where you needed to move it. And unfortunately, insurance was the sacrificial fly. I didn't want it to be, but in the end, I would rather see that we were able to maintain a roof over our head. We were able to maintain feeding ourselves, able to maintain paying all the bills that are associated with the place that we stay. My employer, once they, realized I was injured, they basically sent me packing. We'd been homeless before. We lived over 10 years homeless. So we've learned, in the words of the Marines, improvise, adapt, and overcome. I'm doing everything that I can right now, and the process is not set up properly for the people.
I have mental illness, depression, anxiety. I'm a nurse. I worked as a nurse. There's been times where I couldn't afford my medications, and I'd go weeks or months without. Whereas some of my neighbors are worried about getting their diabetic medications, their heart medications, which that's pretty scary. But if I look at myself, going without my antidepressants is not a good idea either. And it can leave me in physically and emotionally unhealthy places.
I had worked for one of the major insurance financial companies for 30 years. So I was counting on my pension. What happened was the company decided in 2008 that this was their chance to get rid of their elder employees. Anybody who was over 50, had more than 20 years with the company, got caught in the layoff. I was 18 months from being able to early retire. I was a single mom, had 2 sons, and I had to keep food on the table. I had a condo. I was about maybe 10 more years from having it paid off, and I lost it in foreclosure after I got laid off, because nobody wants to hire somebody in their mid-50s with a lot of experience and at a decent salary. One point, right before I moved in here, I was renting a room. That was all I could afford to do at the time. The girl decided to raise the rent $400 a month when rent started going up. I couldn't afford it. Moved in with my son for a couple of months, and by the way, I was finishing up chemo at this time because I had colon cancer. And I moved in with my son for a couple months until we got evicted because he didn't tell me he wasn't paying the rent. We're both down to where we eat maybe twice a day. I just can't afford to do breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So.
I'm more than happy to tell my story because the people, the powers that be, need to know that the little guy still exists.
Generosity is better. If we increase the SNAP and have our people be more healthy, it's much better financially if, political people think that way, than it is if we drop the benefits. They're going to be sicker later, longer, and it's going to cost a lot more money.
Time is too short. Stop putting us, making us jump through hoop after hoop after hoop. It's just to get our basic needs met. I've never been rich. I've always been poor all my life, and I don't mind being poor all my life. But in this time, we could use a hand up.